Hey guys, it's Dad with Dad's Guide to Adulting. I hope you're doing well and that you're having a great day. In this video, we're going to start talking about estate planning. And estate planning is basically the process of getting your financial and other affairs in order in case you die or in case you have a medical condition that prevents you from handling your own affairs. And for many young adults, it seems like estate planning is something that should be way off in the future when you're older, like me, and you are probably closer to the time period in which you're going to pass away. To a certain extent, that is true. It is very good news that the vast majority of young adults aren't going to need their wills anytime soon. But it is still important to understand what the process is, to understand what the key documents are, and to make a decision early on which ones you need and when. And it is particularly important to have that paperwork in place if you have children. And we'll talk about those things a little bit later. In this video, we're going to do a short overview of the topic, and we're going to talk about the subjects and the key documents that you need to know about. If you have questions on any one of those topics, we have separate videos on each one, and feel free to go there for the details. One quick note before we get into the details is that this is an area where there are some defined terms that you need to know. Not many, which is good, but there are some. We have a list on our website of the key terms and some of the definitions. If you have questions, obviously put them on the feedback section of our website. One term that I do want to explain at the beginning is estate, and what I mean when I refer to your estate. Your estate is basically the sum of everything you own and everything you owe. It includes, for example, your house, your car, your checking account, your retirement, your computer, your mortgage, your credit card debts, everything. The value of your estate is determined by adding up everything you own and subtracting everything you owe. It's very much like calculating your net worth, which we talk about in the finances section of the website. A major goal of estate planning is determining what happens to your estate and who makes those decisions after you die. Okay, so let's talk about the topics. In the first video, we talk about wills, intestacy, and probate. A will is a document in which you spell out your last wishes, what you want to happen to your body, to your property, meaning your estate, and most importantly, if you have them, your children after you pass away. If both you and your partner are gone, who do you want to raise your children? Do you want to be cremated or buried? Where do you want to be? What kind of service would you like? To whom do you want to leave your car? Those are the questions that are answered in a will. The rules on wills differ from state to state, but they are very technical documents, and as we talk about later, you never want to draft one yourself, and you don't want to download one from the internet and use that. It may very well be invalid when it is applied. You're going to want to talk to a lawyer to get a proper will in your state, and we'll talk about that more later. Intestacy refers to the process when somebody dies without a will. If you die without a will, that means you've died intestate. In that case, your wishes may or may not be carried out because you haven't spelled them out in a written document. State law will determine what happens to your estate, and state law will determine who gets to make those decisions. Usually the court will appoint one of your family members to be in charge, and the distribution of what you own, the distribution of your assets, will be determined by state law. If you don't have a will, you need to be prepared for your estate to be governed by those laws instead, which may not be what you want. Probate very simply means the legal process by which your estate is administered. In the probate process, the court reviews your will and approves it if it's valid. The court will decide who will be the executor or the administrator of your estate, will issue those papers, and give that person legal authority to act on your behalf. That's basically what the process of probate is. We talk about that more later. The next video we have is talking about serving as an executor. This video applies if someone that you love, like your parent, dies and you were appointed to act as their executor. It also walks you through what an executor and administrator does, which can be helpful to you in deciding who you want to appoint in that role in your own will. An executor is the person named in your will as the person responsible for handling your estate. They will set up a checking account for the estate, collect all the assets, pay off all the debts, and then distribute the remaining value to the beneficiaries, to the people that you have designated to receive it. In most states, an administrator is basically the person who fulfills that same role, but in circumstances where you die intestate and don't have a will. We'll also talk a little bit about what a trustee is and what a guardian is and what their roles are. In our next video, we'll talk about letters to the executor. That is a letter that you should put together to the person who is going to handle your estate after you die, usually a close family member, that explains basically where everything you have is. The will spells out where everything should go, But the letter to the executor can provide important information about where your financial accounts are held, where the banks are, the passwords for your computer and your phone, the location of your safe deposit box if you have one. We'll talk about all that when we talk about letters to the executor. The next video we have in this section talks about a financial and business power of attorney. This is a document that basically gives someone else the power to handle your financial affairs if you are still alive but unable to handle them yourself. For example, if you are in a coma, or if you have a stroke or are mentally disabled, if you have Alzheimer's or some other disease, this document would give somebody the authority to handle your financial affairs. The last video we have in this section talks about medical powers of attorney, which are also called advanced medical directives. This is a document that everyone should have, including young adults, that spells out who will make medical decisions for you if you are unable to do so. Again, if you're in a coma, who do you want to make decisions about what they should do for your medical treatment and what kinds of medical treatment you do and do not want to accept in what circumstances? It's an unhappy situation to think about, but it is something we all need to plan for, and it is a good document to have in place. Okay, that's it for this introduction. In our next video, we'll talk about wills, intestacy, and probate. Until then, remember, you got this.